Namaste, my beautiful witchlings, and welcome back to yet another episode of Bitchin Witch. I want to say hello to those of you who are watching me live. Hello, hello. I am Di the Yoga Witch, Navy veteran, yoga instructor, witch, life coach, and today, Veteran Di has absolutely entered the chat. Now, if you're new around here, let me explain what this show is and what we're doing here. Bitchin' Witch is where I get to take the filter off. It's where I get to talk about current events, politics, religion, culture, veterans issues, disability, queer rights, and all of the things that make me look at the news and ask, what in the cinnamon toast fuck is this? Now, fair warning, there will probably be a fair amount of swearing. I am ex-Navy after all. There will definitely be opinions because I am an opinionated witch. There will also be facts, because here's the thing. I do not rant just to rant. I rant because people, communities, and most of all, truth matter. Now, if something affects the people I love, the communities I serve and belong to, or the values that I have spent my entire adult life trying to live by, I'm probably going to have something to say about it. Now, this week feels especially important because, well, Independence Day is right around the corner. Every year around this time of year, social media becomes predictable is a good way of putting it. Some people wave flags, some people burn flags, some people insist that America is the absolute greatest country, greatest nation on the face of the earth. Others, not so much. And then somewhere in the middle, there are a whole lot of us out here trying to figure out what patriotism actually looks like, you know? Now, as a veteran, military brat, military spouse, military family member, I've had a slightly different relationship with Independence Day than a lot of people. So here's some backstory. I joined the Navy at 17 years old, straight out of high school. I raised my right hand and swore an oath not to a president, political party, or to an ideology. I swore this oath right here to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's a very different thing. It's also an oath that belongs to the principles this country was founded upon, not to whichever administration happens to be in power. And that oath, it doesn't expire when you take off the uniform and sign your DD-214. Now, there's a lot of people who assume that because I'm a vet, I must automatically support every military decision, government policy, or politician who wraps themselves in the flag while looking like they're humping the flagpole. No. That has never been what patriotism meant to me. Real patriotism is not blind loyalty. That looks more like nationalism. And if I start down that rabbit hole, we are going to be here until next Tuesday, all right? All right. Real patriotism is loving your country enough to want it to live up to its own ideals. It's believing that liberty and justice for all should actually include all. You know, like the flag that I have hanging behind me during this podcast through Pride Month that says, "We the people" means all the people. I don't get why that's such a controversial statement, but here we are. It's also believing that freedom is strongest when it protects the people you disagree with, not just the people who look like you, worship like you, vote like you, or love like you. Because if freedom only applies to the majority, it ain't freedom. That's privilege. And that's where we're going today. We're going to talk about what freedom actually means. We're going to talk about what happens when government systems are weaponized against political opponents. We're going to talk about veterans' proposed changes affecting VA disability ratings. We're going to talk about caring for the people who have already fulfilled their end of the bargain. And then before we wrap up, we're going to take just a quick minute to say farewell to a band that has been the part of the soundtrack of so many American lives for literally decades. So, yeah. We got a little bit to cover today, but underneath every single story is one question. What does freedom actually require from us? Because, well, freedom isn't just fireworks, hot dogs, or waving a flag once a year. Freedom is responsibility, requires participation and empathy, and requires us to protect rights even when they belong to people we don't understand or even particularly like. As many of you know, I am a queer, pagan, female veteran. I have lived at the intersection of identities that some people still believe shouldn't exist together. Apparently, I cannot be pagan and patriotic. I cannot be queer and faithful. And I cannot criticize my government while still loving my country. Funny. The Constitution I swore to support and defend doesn't seem to have those limitations. First Amendment protects religious freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, the right to petition the government. Those are not inconveniences. Those are foundational principles. They're supposed to be exercised, and if we don't exercise them, much like muscles, we could lose them. And sometimes patriotism looks like celebration. Other times patriotism looks like accountability. Sometimes patriotism looks like asking difficult questions because we believe our country can do better. These things are not opposites. They happen to be partners. And one of the things I have learned over the years is that people confuse criticism with hatred. They are not the same thing. If I hated this country, I sure as fuck wouldn't spend so much time trying to make it better. If I didn't believe we were capable of living up to our ideals, I wouldn't bother speaking up because silence would be easier. But that's not who I am, and frankly, it's not who most veterans I know are either. Now, veterans come from every political party, every religion, every race, every sexual orientation, and gender identity. We don't all agree. We were never supposed to. And that's the whole frickin' point. Democracy, noisy. Freedom is messy. And people are complicated. What matters, though, isn't that we all arrive at the same conclusion. What matters is whether we're willing to protect one another's right to arrive at different conclusions peacefully. That's where freedom lives. Not in unanimous agreement, in mutual dignity. So today, I'm going to rant. Probably a little, probably a lot. I'm going to laugh because, well, I laugh at my own jokes. Probably going to swear a lot. And hopefully, I'm going to leave you guys with something worth thinking about as Independence Day approaches. Because I believe this country is worth celebrating. I also believe it's worth improving. Those two beliefs can coexist in the same heart. Mine certainly does. So, go grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab whatever gets you through listening to me yell at the internet, and let's get into it. Because, my darling witchlings, we got some bitching to do tonight. Now let's talk about the story that made me stop scrolling and go, oh, absolutely the fuck not. This one makes me hot. Recently, last week I believe it is, there were reports that a false complaint was made to Child Protective Services against former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg and his family. Now, before y'all start rage typing in the comments, this is not going to be about whether you voted for Mayor Pete or not. It isn't about whether you agree with his policies or his politics. It isn't about Democrats versus Republicans. It's about something a whole fuck ton bigger than that, y'all. It's about what happens when we start weaponizing government agencies against people we don't like. Because here's the thing. CPS exists for one reason. To protect children. Full stop. The people who work for CPS have an incredibly difficult job. They investigate abuse. neglect, dangerous living situations. They walk into homes where children are genuinely at risk. They make decisions that can literally mean the difference between life and death. Their work matters. It matters because children deserve to be safe. So every single time somebody knowingly files a false report, they're not just harassing another family. They are literally stealing time and resources away from kids who actually need help. Think about that for a second. Every investigator spending hours looking into a report they never should have received isn't investigating a child who may genuinely be in danger. False reports don't just inconvenience adults. They potentially delay help for kids who desperately need it. That's why this pisses me off. Not to mention the fact that we all know CPS is not the best organization, not the best, government agency, but we're going to leave that. We're going to pretend for tonight that they're actually doing their jobs. Now, if someone files a report because they sincerely believe a child is unsafe, even if they are mistaken, that's one thing. Good faith reports are exactly what the system is designed for. But filing a report because you dislike someone's politics or their religion or because they're gay or because they pissed you off and you simply want to make their life difficult and miserable, that is not protecting children. That's abusing a system that exists to protect the most vulnerable among us. And once we normalize that, where does it stop? Today, it's Pete Buttigieg. Tomorrow, it's a teacher. Next week, it's your next door neighbor. Eventually, it's anyone somebody disagrees with. That ain't freedom, y'all. That's intimidation. One of the things I find especially disturbing is how often we see government systems turned into political weapons, whether it's false CPS reports, swatting, harassment campaigns, or even attempts to use public institutions to punish people for existing. We are moving further away from accountability and closer to retaliation. These are not the same thing, y'all. I've said it before, and I will probably say it until I'm blue in the God's be damned face. Disagreement is a part of democracy. Harassment is not. Criticism is protected speech. Weaponizing public services is not civic engagement. That is abuse. Now, we're going to make this even a little bit more personal for me, because I'm a queer woman. I am a pagan. I am a veteran. I have spent decades existing at the intersection of identities that make some people deeply uncomfortable. I've had people tell me my faith isn't real. I've had people tell me I'm going to hell for my sexuality. I've had people question whether I can love my country while criticizing it. And I know first fucking hand how terrifying it is when child protective services become part of your life. Because years ago, I had that battle. I fought CPS involving my own family. I fought it and I won. I was one of the lucky ones, and I know this. But that experience taught me just how emotionally devastating those investigations can be, even when you've done nothing wrong. That's one of the reasons why this particular story has hit me so hard. Imagine if every one of those disagreements turned into someone trying to use government agencies against me. Imagine living with that, because some people already do. And that should concern every single fucking one of us. Not because of who the target is, because of what it says about our willingness to misuse institutions that are supposed to serve the public. And this brings us back to today, to what I said at the beginning of today's episode. Freedom isn't just about protecting the people we agree with. It's about protecting everyone's rights, including people we would never invite over for dinner. If your commitment to civil liberties only applies to your political allies or people in your political party, then your commitment is not actually to liberty. It's to winning. Those are very different things. I want CPS focusing on children who actually need help. I want law enforcement focusing on actual crimes, not civil oopses. I want courts focusing on justice and public institutions doing the jobs they were created to do. I do not want them becoming tools for political revenge. Because when institutions lose public trust, everybody loses. The families who need help, the children who need protection, the community simply trying to keep one another safe. This story is not to make us ask whether we like Pete Buttigieg or not. It should make us ask whether we're comfortable living in a society where public systems become political weapons. For me, that answer is simple. Abso-fucking-lutely not. We can disagree, we can debate, we can vote, we can protest, we can criticize one another until we're pink, purple, and blue in the face. That's democracy. But leave the agencies that exist to protect children out of partisan warfare. They have far more important work to do and far too much work to do. And frankly, so do we. We're going to stay on the topic of government responsibility for another minute. Because if we're going to spend this week talking about freedom, patriotism, and Independence Day, we also need to talk about keeping promises. Now, one of the promises our country makes is this. If you serve, if you come home carrying injuries, whether people can see them or not, we going to take care of you. That's the promise. Right? That's what I heard when I raised my hand. Now, recently, there has been a lot of discussion surrounding some proposed changes to VA disability ratings, particularly for conditions like tinnitus and sleep apnea, both of which I live with. Now, before anybody panics, take a deep breath. There has been a tremendous amount of misinformation flying around online. I have seen posts claiming veterans are going to lose everything overnight. I have seen people insisting the VA is eliminating disability compensation altogether. That's not what's happening. What we are talking about are proposed changes to how certain conditions are evaluated and rated. Those proposals deserve some discussion and they deserve scrutiny, but they also deserve accuracy, and I am all about real-time fact-checking because fear spreads fast. Facts sometimes struggle to keep up. And as someone who receives VA disability compensation, this ain't an abstract policy discussion, this be personal. I live with chronic pain, fibromyalgia, arthritis, migraines, asthma, POTS, mental health issues. The list is unfortunately rather impressive. I'm also service-connected disabled, sitting currently at 80%. The VA supplies my CPAP equipment because of my sleep apnea. My tinnitus is service-connected, living at the end of the takeoff runway for San Diego International Airport will do that to a person. Now, if you've never experienced tinnitus, A, I'm jealous, and B, imagine never again hearing silence. Ever. Some days it's just ringing. Some days it sounds like somebody left an old CRT television or monitor on somewhere in the room. Yeah. Some days it's screeching. That's what it's doing now. You learn to live with it. But that doesn't mean it isn't there. And that's something I really wish more people understood about disabilities in general. You adapt. You find workarounds. You build systems. You keep living your life. Now, that doesn't mean you're magically cured. It means you're resilient. And there is a tendency in our culture to assume that if someone smiles, if they work, if they teach yoga, if they laugh, if they build a business, then obviously they must not really be disabled. Let me tell you something. We spoonies, disabled people, yeah, we are some of the most resourceful people you are ever going to meet. And it's not because we want to be, it's because we have to be. We are constantly solving problems other people never notice. Such as, how do I get through a 6-hour market without flaring my pots? Compression stockings, lots of electrolytes and hydration, and even more planning. How do I remember my weekly meds? My daily meds? Well, color-coded organizers, systems, routine. If I fuck up my routine of setting my meds out for the week, I miss meds. So how do I keep teaching despite chronic pain? I adapt. I modify. I listen to my body. Now, that's not evidence that my disability disappeared. Far from it. It's evidence that humans are remarkably adaptable. The same is true for veterans because, well, we're human. Many of us do not look like what people imagine when they hear the word disabled. Some injuries are visible. Yes, missing limbs or missing eyes or the scars, those are visible. But there are a whole lot more that aren't. TBI, traumatic brain injury, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, hearing loss, chronic pain, respiratory illnesses like my asthma, joint damage, military sexual trauma. None of y'all have seen that. The list goes on. There are so many. When conversations about disability ratings happen, I really think we need to remember that we are talking about real people. Not just numbers on a spreadsheet, definitely not budget projections. Human fucking beings. People trying to raise families, pay mortgages, go to school, build businesses, volunteer in their communities, and continue serving in different ways. I also think it's important to remember, and this is a big one, that disability compensation ain't a prize. It's not charity. Sure as the hell ain't winning the lottery. It is compensation for injuries or illnesses connected to our military service. Don't nobody join the military hoping to earn disability benefits someday. Trust me, if you ask most disabled veterans whether they'd rather have a healthy body or a monthly check, healthy body wins every fucking time. If you ask whether we'd rather sleep through the night or have another disability percentage, I'm going to take the sleep. So will every other fucking veteran I know every single fucking time. Which brings me back to Independence Day. We love to thank veterans this time of year. People say to me constantly, thank you for your service. And I genuinely appreciate the sentiment, even if I have no idea how to respond to you because your welcome just doesn't feel right. But supporting veterans is not just something we do with words. It's something we do through policy, healthcare, accessibility, and through mental health services. Through honoring the commitments we made to the people who served. Those conversations are not anti-American. They are actually deeply patriotic because keeping promises matters. And if we're going to celebrate freedom this week, can we also remember the people who carried part of the cost of protecting it? Not because veterans are more important than anyone else, because we're not, but because a promise is a promise is a promise. And keeping promises says something about the kind of country we choose to be. Yeah. Let's take a quick break here and step into dietheyogawitch.shop. This is where magic meets movement and your growth is supported on and off the mat. This is a space for transformation where yoga and life coaching come together to help you move forward with clarity, confidence, and purpose at a pace your nervous system can actually sustain. Alongside your practice, you will find handmade intention-infused jewelry and some Die the Yoga Witch merch like coffee mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, and more. Yes, including goodies for our furry familiars, so we can all carry just a little bit of magic with us each and every day. There are tarot and oracle readings available when you're seeking insight, and a limited number of local services offered for those here in the Puget Sound region. But the heart of this space is supporting your daily practice, your growth, and your connection to yourself. If something in your life is shifting, growing, or just asking for some deeper intention, this is your sign. Come explore what we can create together at dietheyogawitch.shop. If you're enjoying this podcast and feel called to become part of our coven here, please feel free to tap that join button and become a channel member. There are some amazing perks for all of my witchlings, with membership levels starting at just a single $1 a month. How affordable is that, y'all? Now, if membership isn't in the cards for you right at the moment, you can still support this channel for free by subscribing and sharing this video with a friend. You can also find all of the ways to support me and my social media here on my link tree and in the description box below. I appreciate all of you and all of your support. You guys are amazing and awesome. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get back to the show. Moving on. As we get closer to the 4th of July, I find myself thinking about the word freedom a lot. It's one of those words that everybody uses, right? Politicians use it, pastors use it, activists, advertisers, heck, companies use it to sell mattresses and pickup trucks. But the more I hear people talk about freedom, the more I wonder if we're all talking about the same thing. Because somewhere along the way, I think we've started confusing freedom with comfort. Freedom isn't the right to never be challenged or to never hear an opinion you dislike. Freedom isn't the right to force everyone else to live according to your beliefs. Freedom is something much more demanding than that, y'all. Freedom asks us to share space with people whose lives look absolutely nothing like our own. It asks us to protect rights we may never personally use. It asks us to defend the dignity of people whose beliefs we don't share. And honestly, that's the harder one. It's so much easier to defend someone who agrees with you. The real test comes when you defend someone's rights even though you fundamentally disagree with them. So, using me as an example. As a pagan, I don't expect everyone to understand my faith. Some people never will. Some people think it's silly. Others think it's dangerous. And there are some who genuinely think it doesn't belong in America at all. I respectfully disagree. But here's the thing. I don't need everyone to agree with my spirituality. I just need the same freedom to practice mine that they have to practice theirs. That's religious freedom. Not dominance, not preference. Freedom. Same thing goes for being queer. I don't need everyone to celebrate my identity. I don't need everyone's approval. I don't even need everyone to fucking understand it. I believe I deserve the same rights, protections, and dignity as everyone else. That's equality, not special treatment. Simply equality. And I believe the exact same thing for people whose beliefs, identities, and politics differ from mine. Because rights don't become less important when they're exercised by someone I disagree with. I actually gave up my quality of life so that they can have those fucking rights. Refer back to I support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. In fact, that's when they're tested. One of the things I have learned over the years, both in the military and in civilian life, is, well, democracy is noisy. People argue, protest, vote, lose elections, win elections. Sometimes we celebrate, sometimes we're disappointed, and that's all part of living in a free society. The goal was never unanimous agreement. The goal was creating a system where disagreements weren't settled through fucking violence. Now, that's remarkable when you stop and think about it. Now, Does that mean our system is perfect? Abso-fucking-lutely not. No human institution is. We have failed repeatedly. Insert Oliver Queen here saying you have failed this country, you know? We've denied people the right to vote. We've discriminated and excluded. We've harmed entire communities, made promises we didn't keep. History is full of those examples. But history is also full of people who refused to accept that those failures were the final word. People who organized, marched, voted, advocated, and challenged unjust laws. People who expanded the definition of we the people. That's America too. Both stories exist. The failures and the people who worked to correct them. When I hear someone say that criticizing our country is somehow unpatriotic, I always come back to the oath I took. I swore to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That document begins with 3 extraordinary words. We the people. Not we the politicians, not we the wealthy, not we the majority. We the people. That includes people I agree with and people I don't. It includes Christians, Muslims, Jews, pagans, Hindus, atheists, people who vote like I do, and people who absolutely don't. Veterans, teachers, farmers, artists, immigrants, the disabled, the queer community, every single fucking one of us. The Constitution doesn't ask us to earn our humanity. It recognizes it. Which is why I get so pissed off when people talk about freedom as though it's something that belongs to one group more than another. Freedom isn't a pie. Giving someone else a slice doesn't leave less for you. In fact, the more consistently we protect one another's rights, the stronger those rights become for everyone. Refer back to me saying that if we don't exercise those rights, we can lose them. Thank you, Monty. Now that's the country I want to live in. One where my neighbors don't have to fear being targeted simply because of who they love. Veterans receive the care we earned. Children are protected instead of becoming pawns in political games. Where religious freedom actually means freedom for all religions and from religion if that's your choice. One where disagreement isn't treated as treason and empathy isn't mistaken for weakness. Is that idealistic? Maybe. But I don't think hope is naive. I think hope is necessary because every generation inherits an unfinished country. None of us, I'm going to say that again, none of us are handed a perfect nation. We are handed a work in progress. The question isn't whether America is perfect. The question is, what are we going to contribute while we're here? Are we going to leave it a little kinder, a little fairer, a little more welcoming, and a little more just? Or are we going to make it smaller, meaner, and more fearful? Those are choices, not inevitabilities. As for me, honey, I am choosing hope, community, and accountability. I'm choosing to believe that patriotism isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about caring enough to help make it better. Because freedom isn't fragile. It's strengthened every time ordinary people choose courage over fear, compassion over cruelty, and community over division. Now, I like to try to end Bitchin Witch with something that reminds us why we're fighting in the first place. Because honestly, if all we ever focus on is the outrage, if all we ever do is doom scroll and consume bad news, eventually we forget what we're trying to protect. This week, I want to end by recognizing, how do I describe this? A group of musicians. who have spent nearly 6 decades providing the soundtrack to countless American lives. The Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Oh, shit. Oh, excuse me. I'm paying for the weekend. So, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band recently announced that they are retiring from touring. It's been almost 60 years that they've been together and doing this. Think about that one for a minute. Nearly 6 decades. That is longer than I have been walking this earth. Now, whether you grew up listening to country, folk, bluegrass, or just good storytelling, chances are you have crossed paths with their music somewhere along the way. The song of theirs that I think of most often is Fishing in the Dark. Loved that song since I was a kid. Now, that's something worth celebrating. One of the things I absolutely love about music is that it reminds us of who we are. You hear one song. Suddenly you're 17 again or 25. Music becomes part of our memories, and it marks chapters of our lives. And the artists who stick around for 60 years, holy shit, they become a part of the fabric of a culture. Now, we're going to say every military branch has their traditions. Every veteran carries little pieces of military language with them long after they leave service. I mean, I still make head calls. Thank you very much. One of my favorite expressions, though, does come from the Navy. It's a blessing. Fair winds and following seas. It's more than just goodbye. It's a blessing and a wish that the winds be gentle and the seas carry you safely. That whatever journey comes next is met with strength, peace, and good fortune. So, to the members of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, thank you. Fair winds and following seas. Now, sorry, babe. All right, now, as we head towards Independence Day, I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Freedom isn't something we inherit once and then never think about again. It is something that we practice every single day. It's in the way we treat our neighbors, in the way we speak to people we disagree with. It's in whether we protect the rights of those whose lives look different from our own, and in whether we choose compassion over contempt, curiosity over assumptions, and whether we choose community over division. As a veteran of our military services, I still believe in this country. And it's not because I think it's flawless. Dear God, I know it's not. But because I believe people are capable of making it better. One conversation, one act of kindness, one vote, one volunteer shift, one difficult discussion, and one courageous decision at a time. Freedom is not maintained by fireworks. It's maintained by people. Ordinary, everyday people who choose integrity when nobody is watching, who stand beside their neighbors, and who refuse to let fear define their communities. People who remember that patriotism isn't measured by how loudly you proclaim your love of country, but by how faithfully you live the values that country claims to uphold. So, however you plan to celebrate this week, whether it's grilling burgers, watching fireworks, avoiding the fireworks because your dog or your PTSD absolutely hates them, spending time with family or working, or simply taking a quiet moment to reflect, I hope you'll spend at least a few minutes thinking about what freedom means to you. Not the slogan, not the campaign speech, not the social media meme, but the real thing. Because I have a feeling your answer says far more about your values than any flag ever could. So, thank you for spending part of your day with me. I appreciate it. If this episode made you think, laugh, or even made you yell back at your phone or your computer, even just a little, I would absolutely love it if you would share it with someone who enjoys thoughtful conversations and isn't afraid of a little righteous indignation, you know? Until next time, my witchlings, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, keep asking difficult questions and leading with compassion. And remember, the world doesn't need more outrage for outrage's sake. It needs more people willing to care enough to make things better. I'm Di the Yoga Witch. Fair winds and following seas. And I'll see you next time on Bitchin Witch. Stay informed, stay angry, and stay magical. Blessed be and Namaste, witchlings. Now let's check in with the chat. Oh. Hey, cheese. Green Day and Blink 182. Yes. I was checking in with chat, see if anybody really had anything to talk about. I don't see much. Man, I tell you. That's okay. Yep, Keith was here. Yep, I see Joram. Whee! All right. Oh, goodness. Excuse me. All right, I guess we're going to wrap up. Our quick little reminder that this space does exist solely because of our witchling community. So, there are no corporate sponsors. There is no corporate sponsors. Just shared magic, mutual care, and a whole lot of love. So please do me a favor, do the like, share, and subscribe thing. Join the channel if you have the financial means to do so. And then share us with a friend. It helps grow the community. Now let's go out there and spread love, spread joy, and spread kindness, because there's already enough darkness and hate and discontent out there. Let each of us choose to be steady lights of love and hope for those stumbling in the shadows. Make sure your loved ones in all their forms, 2 legs, 4 legs, wings, fur, scales, paws, and claws, know exactly how much you love them, because time is not a strict progression of cause to effect. It is far more of a big ball of wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff that moves faster than any of us realize, meaning those chances to say I love you one last time are not ever guaranteed. If you take one thing away from everything I say and do here, I hope it's that you always, always remember this. You are loved, you are wanted, you are needed, and your purpose for existing is real, even if you don't know what it is yet. I love you guys to bits. I hope every single one of you has a fantabulously magical rest of your day or night. I will see you later. Namaste, witchlings.